Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. So, I have a guest for you today, and her name is Natalie Monson, and she's really great. She is the founder and owner of Super Healthy Kids and the Prepare app, which is a meal planning app. So, anyway, she is amazing. I've been getting a lot of questions and requests from you guys about if I can share some more information and tips about how to get our kids to eat healthier, how to get more creative in the kitchen. So this was a perfect addition. I'm so excited to share her with you. So please enjoy the episode. To everyone listening, this is Natalie Monson. She is the founder and owner of Super Healthy Kids and the creator of the Prepare app. So hello, Natalie. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's so good to be here.
Yay. So, did you want to briefly introduce yourself? I gave, a small little synopsis of what you do, but you are a pretty impressive lady. Would you like to add anything else to that?
Sure. So I started my food blog about 10 years ago, and from there we grew a product line, and we developed a line of healthy kids eating wear based on the Choose My Plate. And then we also created a meal plan subscription for our readers. And then about 3 years ago, we learned a lot of things from that business and realized that people like to eat more than just one type of recipe. So even though our users love Super Healthy Kids recipes, they also love their own recipes, and they love other bloggers' recipes, and they love their mom's recipes. And so we wanted to create a platform for food publishers to be able to share and monetize their recipes in a different way, and also for consumers to be able to use recipes in a much better space than has ever been done before, because right now using recipes online isn't a very seamless experience. And so we really wanted to create an experience that could make a very smooth flow for anyone who likes to cook at home from beginning to end.
Yes, I love that. Especially, even I feel like your Prepare app is even beneficial because when you go to those cooking meal bloggers websites, it takes forever to scroll through because of all the different ads and all the different things on it. So your app definitely takes out all of that drama.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've done hundreds and hundreds of user interviews, and asking people what is the biggest challenge preventing them from cooking dinner or cooking healthy meals for their families. And the number one most common answer is not enough time.
Yeah.
And so when we built the Prepare app, we really took that into consideration of how we could streamline things to help people with their biggest issue of not enough time. So like you mentioned, cooking from a website, you're scrolling through all of the content and ads, and when you're ready to cook, you just really want the recipe. So
yeah. You have such a calm demeanor, and you have, how many children do you have?
I have 4.
You have 4 children, and I see, they're always sitting there, maybe having a healthy breakfast or lunch together, and I love all of your tips that you share. So in sense of quote unquote fitting it all in, do you have any tips for anyone who feels just so stuck in the day-to-day, and they're like, how did you get your kids to sit down and have a meal? I can't even get them out of the car, and not to eat fast food. So do you have any tips for?
Totally.
Yeah.
So I get asked questions all the time, about picky eating and how you get your kids to do this and that. And so my oldest child is 10 and my youngest is 3. And something I think I've learned through being a parent is that it's less about focusing sometimes with food anyway. It's less about focusing on the little things and what they're eating for this meal and that meal, and more about creating a food culture in your home. And that's something I really am big on, because at the end of the day, your kids aren't going to remember what they ate for lunch or breakfast a month ago, but when they leave home, they'll remember the food culture you had. And when I say food culture, that's kind of like all the food decisions you make as a whole. So do you eat dinner together as a family, or do you go out to eat and have fast food every night? You have cereal for breakfast, or do you make breakfast? Do you have after school, just these food culture and systems we've created, or do you serve fruits and vegetables with every meal? And your kids will learn these things every day, just little by little, and that's what they take with them. And so my goal is to raise my kids so that they can be independent, so that when they leave my house, they'll be like, oh, I need a fruit and a vegetable with my dinner, because that's what I did every day for my whole life. And it's just part of their psyche.
Yeah.
And they just make those decisions on their own. So I would say, think about what's important to you and what food culture you want to create. And it's going to look different for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that something that you aim to influence them by, just a fruit and a veggie and just maybe like a balanced plate?
Yeah. So kind of my food philosophy, we focus a lot more on what we should be eating and not what we shouldn't be eating. Because I think it can be really overwhelming for people. And, one day this food's good and one day this food's bad. And one day we should be eating carbs and one day we should be eating keto. And it changes all the time. And I think it gets really overwhelming for people. They don't know what the best diet is or what food's healthy. But if you look at the research that has stood the test of time, fruits and vegetables are consistently one of the best things you can do for your health. And so that's what we really try to focus on. And it's easy for kids to get that concept. Eat a fruit and vegetable with every meal.
Yeah.
And if you do that, everything else can work itself out. I don't worry so much about, don't ever eat sugar, don't ever eat this.
Yeah.
I really focus on, with my kids, make sure you have a fruit and a vegetable with every meal.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you say no to too many things, it's only going to be so long before they go to a friend's house and have all of the candy that they want or all the soda that they can get their hands on, So did you have a healthy food culture growing up? Was that something that you were taught?
Yeah, so my family, I remember always having more balanced meals. We always ate dinner together as a family, and both my parents were health conscious growing up. And so I definitely think it contributed to how I am now, which I think is why it's so important to create that culture, because that's what will influence you more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we can help our kids have those healthy habits instilled in them, then they'll pass them on to their kids. And it's a much stronger way to help our kids have healthy habits than just teaching them.
Yeah, or just telling them, right? Eat your broccoli. You got to show them, right? And through mom doing, because that's what I get this question a lot. And I do work with women and I do work with children. And I get that same question over and over again. And it's like such an in-depth kind of answer. Like, how do I get my kids to do this? Well, you have to not only create that culture, but lead by example. And then it's only going to be a matter of time before, mom's walking around with a green smoothie before a baby says, hey, what is that? Can I have a sip? Like, kids are always asking, can I have some? Can I try that?
Yeah.
So
the other thing I would add to that is, I think sometimes we get focused on one specific food, like, okay, you need to eat your broccoli. And so something that we really promote as Super Healthy Kids is serving fruits and vegetables in a variety of ways. So maybe your kid doesn't like steamed broccoli. Or maybe they don't like roasted broccoli, but maybe they would like broccoli with cheese sauce. Or maybe they would like roasted broccoli baked in like a quiche. Or, there's so many ways to serve fruits and vegetables that if you try different ways and consistently keep trying, your kids are bound to like it in some form.
Exactly. Yeah. The children only know as much as what their parents and teachers can share with them and teach them. And so, the mom or the teacher or whoever has to set that groundwork. And it's always funny when I see little guys, like 1 or 2 years old, asking for juice. And they really should be drinking water, and they don't. But parents know that juice tastes better, and they know that they probably prefer juice. Like the child probably prefers juice, but really the kid doesn't know any better, right? Until they have the juice.
It's funny because, especially small children, they eat what's in your house, right? So when I have parents say to me, well, they'll only eat chicken nuggets and mac and cheese for dinner. Well, that's probably because you have that available and they know that it's there. And so, of course, that's what they want to eat. But if they don't have that option, they're going to eat at some level the foods that are in your house,
exactly. Yeah.
So really it starts with what are you bringing in your house? And I think it's, I think we all as parents sometimes fall into this trap of like, oh, I want to give my kids a treat. Oh, well, this is fun. And marketing gets to us too. Like you're saying with the juice, like, oh, I want to buy this juice because my kid will like it. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with buying juice sometimes,
Yeah.
But is that part of your food culture, right?
Yeah.
Do you drink water, or do you always have juice, or do you have soda in your house? And it's those decisions that are made over and over and over every day that are creating this food culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what would you say to someone who right now has a very unhealthy food culture and is really, really, really trying hard to change it? But again, she's working nonstop. Her kids are, they don't want this other stuff. So what would you say to someone who is really trying to create this food culture but is not there yet? What would be the first step to take?
So the first thing I would say is, so there's a book that I love. It's called Atomic Habits. And basically it's the idea of, it's the very small, consistent habits and changes that you do every day that produce a result. And so, for example, if you want to be a runner, you're not going to say, okay, well, I haven't run at all, so tomorrow I'm going to go run 5 miles and think you can stick with that, right?
Yeah.
It's, okay, tomorrow I'm going to run for 10 minutes and then I'm going to walk, or I'm going to run for 5 minutes, I'm going to walk for a minute, I'm going to, and so you do that. And then the next day you keep doing it. And pretty soon you build on that habit. And so I think it's the exact same way with food. I think sometimes we are like, okay, starting Monday, we're just going to eat all healthy food and we're going to do this. And you start off really gung-ho and strong. And then by like Wednesday or Thursday, it's like, okay, you're sliding back into old habits.
Yeah.
So start with something very basic. Like if you're not eating fruits or vegetables at all, say, okay, we're going to have a vegetable dinner and do that every day for a week.
Yeah.
And then once you have that habit down, build on it and say, okay, well, now we're going to make sure that when I pack my kids' lunches, they have a vegetable in their lunch. So then you're having a vegetable with your lunch and a vegetable with your dinner. And then you build on that. And just picking small things that are manageable and important to you. Instead of saying, okay, we're not going to drink any juice anymore, and we're not going to have any soda, and we're not going to eat out, and we're going to have all these vegetables and fruits in our house, and you go buy them all, and then they sit in your fridge, and then they go bad, and it's demotivating. But everyone can say, we're going to have a vegetable dinner.
Yeah. And then just find any veggie that the child and parent will want, and then start with there. Yeah.
There's so many, and there's been so many really great health movements that when you go to the store, a lot of brands are really trying to make it easier for families to eat healthy. And so there's like the frozen steamable vegetables, and they'll have like a cheese sauce or whatever. And I think it's important also not to get caught up on, well, I only can eat the raw organic broccoli.
Yeah.
No, that's not true, right? Like frozen vegetables are great.
Yeah.
Start there if that's what works for your family.
Well, it's so funny because it's like we're wired this way where, I encounter the person who wants to be all or nothing. And like, that's like the diet culture. It's like, I'm either on a diet or I'm not on a diet. And it's funny when we automatically think, okay, I'm going to have zoodles for dinner instead of the regular pasta. We automatically go, okay, that means marinara sauce instead of the Alfredo sauce. That means turkey, ground turkey instead of ground pork. And if you just made that one swap, it wouldn't have been that bad if you had the zoodles with the Alfredo. Yeah, things like that. So just like, but it's weird. Like when I say that to people, they're like, "Oh my God, I never thought of that." And I'm like, it's just the way.
And like, I think too, especially with kids, if you're trying to change a habit and they've been eating a certain way for like 5 years, it's gonna take a while for them to change their eating behaviors as well, you know? And I think it also takes a little bit of time for your taste to change, because if you're accustomed to eating very sweet and very salty foods, your taste buds get accustomed to that.
Yes.
And so having more fresh whole foods, your palate just takes a while to change to really enjoy those foods.
Yeah, so that's where it just takes those little consistent habits and actions and having like a definite goal that you're trying to achieve, whether it's that culture in your house, whether it's a health goal you're trying to reach, just have that in mind and be on the same page, right? Would you recommend when it's a conversation that's had in the household, we are doing this, right, to reach that goal. We are doing this so that maybe we can adjust this health culture. That's why we're doing this. And this reminds me when I do these healthy kids cooking classes, and I'm actually able, like 98% of the time, to get children to want to eat the foods that we make. And it's all whole food based, all really healthy things. And I have a conversation with the child. Like, I ask them, why do you want to eat healthy? Well, because I want to be strong and, this and that. Well, why do you want to eat unhealthy? Well, because it tastes really good and, how can we kind of bridge the gap, right? But either way, I'm having a conversation with the child. And I find like that could be what's missing from a lot of different interactions that are going on in the home when they are trying to move this healthy culture in their household, right? Would you agree that it needs to be a family effort?
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially, I hear a lot of times where maybe there's one child who needs to lose some weight, and I think it's super important that it's a family effort so that you kind of avoid singling anybody out.
Yeah.
And even if it's a parent who's trying to lose weight, they really need the support of the whole family, because when you're trying to change habits, changing your environment is one of the most important things. Yeah. And so that might mean you don't have cookies and chips around the house, right? And so that can be a really good conversation to have with your kids is, hey, I'm really trying to work hard to change some of my habits. And so part of that is not having these foods around because I'm trying to change my environment so that it's not a temptation for me. And, not so your kids know what's going on, and it's not like you're trying to deprive them. It's just like, we can have those things sometimes, but if we want to treat, why don't we make something homemade? Or, let's make it a special occasion and not just have these things in our pantry all the time.
Yeah.
But I do think within families, everyone should try to be eating the same types of foods at meals, especially dinner. And so it's because part of food is tradition and memories and bonding. And so if dinner looks like, well, this kid's having chicken nuggets and mom's having a salad and dad's having, you don't have that same bonding over food. And I think food is more than just the nutrients in it. Food has a lot of really powerful connectors, and having those experiences shared with your family is important.
Yeah. And like you and I both know, the kids will eat it. And so maybe for certain families, when they eliminate those cookies or the chicken fingers or the mac and cheese from the house, the children will be more inclined. Now, I get this question a lot. Well, because as parents, you're just concerned, right? You just want to make sure that they get something in their belly. You just want to make sure that they're fed. So have you ever been in this situation before where, or know someone who has, where their child just refused to have the chicken or the mashed potatoes and didn't eat dinner at night? Yeah.
So I think that's something that's really common. Mm-hmm. And I think if we kind of remove the stress and anxiety around it and take off some of the pressure on our kids, mm-hmm. it helps the whole situation, because kids aren't going to like what you make every night. Yeah. And you know, if you think about, say like you went to a restaurant every night and they got to choose what you had to eat. Mm-hmm. You're not going to like every single thing they serve you. And I think that's normal. And so I think allowing your kids to take off some of the pressure, okay, well, you don't like this tonight, that's okay.
Yeah.
But our rule kind of is, if you haven't ever tried it, you have to try it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to just taste it, because a lot of times kids build up this anxiety in their mind. Well, I'm not going to like it. I don't like that. But they've mm-hmm. never even tried it. Mm-hmm. And so creative ways of just getting them to have a taste of it. And if that's all they eat, that's okay, because they're getting introduced to flavors and textures. Mm-hmm. And when that happens over and over, they become more adventurous eaters. But I don't believe in letting my kids go hungry, mm-hmm. even if they don't eat dinner. I do let them have a bedtime snack, mm-hmm. but it's not just like a bowl of cereal. It follows our same kind of food patterns mm-hmm. of a balanced meal. So it has to have a protein and a fruit, or a vegetable and a grain, you know? So like with a meal, we try to have all 4 protein, grain, fruit, and vegetable. Mm-hmm. With a snack, I tell my kids we have to have 2 of the 4 groups.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we do it. And the reason I don't let my kids go hungry is because kids are really good at paying attention to their hunger cues. Mm-hmm. And if we don't honor those as parents, then they can become, you know, just less valid, I guess. And mm-hmm. I think that's what happens to us as adults, is our hunger cues are taken over by other things, you know? Emotional eating, social eating, boredom, all these different things. And I really want my kids to be able to maintain that good intuitive eating, and eat when you're full, or eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. And that's why I don't let my kids go to bed hungry.
Yeah. So even if they didn't like the dinner, they have the option for bedtime snack later on.
Yeah. And honestly, like if your kids are hungry at dinner, they're almost always going to eat something. Yeah. And so what I do is, if my kids aren't eating anything at dinner, I backtrack and say, okay, well, did they have a snack too mm-hmm. close to dinner? What did they have? You know, look at what else is going on before that, because that's usually what's happening. It's not that they're like, I hate all this food, I'm starving, but I'm not going to eat any of it. It's usually like, I'm not that hungry and this doesn't look that good, so I don't want to eat it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. So I have two other questions that I wanted to ask you before we wrap up. And one was about bribing. I get, you know, I'm sure you get the question a lot. How do I get my kids to eat these veggies? And so some moms will say bribing. And I say, you know, that's a dangerous game to play, because what if you didn't want to clean your house one day, you weren't feeling up to it, and your husband bribed you and said, well, if you clean it today, you'll get dinner and a massage afterwards. Like, you wouldn't be inclined to really want to clean the house again without dinner and a massage. So what do you have to say about bribing? Because I hear some of the craziest things from parents.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, like you were saying, what's the long-term consequence of it?
Yeah.
So is the goal just to get your kid to eat that vegetable one time? Mm-hmm. Because if it is, then yeah, bribing works.
Yeah.
But if your goal is to help your kids really learn to love vegetables and have good habits, then bribing is a very, very short-lived solution.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, well, if they don't want to eat your steamed broccoli, then figure out a different way, or figure out a different vegetable. Like, there may be a vegetable that your kid just doesn't like ever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's some foods, I mean, I think everyone probably has a small handful of foods that they just don't like, even if you're not a picky eater. So find other vegetables and different ways to serve them, and that they actually really enjoy. And also, don't be afraid to make your food taste good, especially vegetables. If cooking in a little bit of oil and adding some salt and seasonings is so important. If you're just serving plain boiled or steamed vegetables, well, it's not very likely they're gonna like them. But if you can find a way, like my kids, I would say for the most part are not picky, and it's just because I've made them that way. Just kind of our food culture. But one of their favorite vegetables is Brussels sprouts, and I cook it. I saute them in a little bit of garlic butter, and then I add cranberries and bacon, and they love it. And it's because it tastes really good, you know? And so don't be afraid to add these other things in to make your vegetables taste good, because it's just like adults. If they look good and they taste good, anyone's more likely to eat it. I don't want to eat like a plain steamed Brussels sprout. Like, that doesn't seem appealing to me either.
Yeah, exactly. And even down to animals, right? Like, my dog will not eat just raw spinach, but she'll eat, sauteed spinach. So it's just like, it's very like basic when we think about it like that. So just get creative, try different cooking techniques. So I love that tip. I was talking to someone recently, and she's a nurse, and she was saying that her child would literally make himself throw up after his mom forced him to have something. And he wasn't crying. She said he wasn't worked up. Have you ever encountered that kind of scenario where...
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things going on there. There's some kids who have legitimate sensory issues. And if that's the case, then I always recommend parents see, it may be like some kind of an occupational therapist where it's how they're moving their mouth. But really in those cases, you need to have some kind of professional help to figure out what's going on, and they're professionally trained to deal with that. But then there's the other scenario where kids have just created so much anxiety in their mind because it's been a power struggle that they will gag on the foods. And so in that case, that's where it's like, mealtime shouldn't be this battle, and kids shouldn't feel like, oh, it's dinner, I know I'm gonna have to eat foods I don't like. They should look forward to coming to dinner, enjoying time with each other, enjoying the food. And I think part of that is letting your kids help be involved in the process. And maybe that starts at letting them help you decide what you're going to eat, and then helping prepare the food and helping set the table. Like, if kids have some autonomy and feel like they have control over some part of what they're eating, then a lot of that anxiety and pressure is taken off, and it's a much more enjoyable experience. And so I think if we, as parents, we can just go into mealtime thinking like, how can we make this enjoyable? How can we make it a good experience? You just have a lot less of those negative behaviors.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a beautiful answer, and you are such a beautiful influence, and you have so many wonderful tips and suggestions, and you are a plethora of information. So I highly encourage everyone listening to go check you out. And so your website is Super Healthy Kids, right? And then they can just search on an app and find the Prepare app.
Yes. You are so sweet. But yes, so if you'd like to check out the Prepare app, it's free. It's available on iOS and Android. You can go to prepare.com as well to find out more information about it.
Yes, it's spelled Prepear, right?
Yes, like the fruit.
Yes, which is very creative. So thank you for being on, and we'll definitely have to have you on again. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. This was fun. I always love talking about nutrition, so this was great.
Thank you. All right, so if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating or review, letting me know what you think. Let me know if you want to hear from Natalie again. Let me know if you want to hear from other guests like this. If you have any requests or recommendations who I should interview, please let me know. So if you're interested in continuing this conversation, head on over to the Facebook group, Healthy Weight Loss Tips for Busy Women, and we can chat more over there. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.